What if I told you the biggest problem with living on Mars isn't the freezing temperatures? It's not the lack of oxygen, and it's not even the deadly radiation. In fact, there's one problem so serious that it could make an entire Mars colony impossible. Yet, almost nobody talks about it. Because despite all the headlines about Mars cities, SpaceX rockets, and humanity becoming a multi-planet species, the truth is that Mars may be far more dangerous than we've been led to believe. And the scariest part? The closer scientists look at Mars, the more impossible it starts to seem.
At first glance, Mars seems surprisingly familiar. It has mountains, valleys, deserts, polar ice caps, and even seasons. In fact, the planet has roughly the same amount of land area as all the continents on Earth combined. Sounds promising, right? Not so fast. Mars is basically Earth's evil twin. The atmosphere is about 95% carbon dioxide and less than 1% as thick as Earth's. That means if you stepped outside without a spacesuit, you wouldn't just suffocate. Because of the incredibly low pressure, moisture in your eyes, mouth, and lungs would begin to vaporize almost immediately. You'd lose consciousness in seconds. Every trip outside would require a fully functioning spacesuit because Mars isn't just uncomfortable, it's fundamentally incompatible with human life.
People often imagine Mars as a hot desert. After all, it's red. But Mars is actually freezing cold. The average temperature is around minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 62 degrees Celsius. Even near the equator, temperatures can swing from a comfortable afternoon to an Antarctic-level deep freeze by nighttime. That means every habitat must be heated continuously. Every greenhouse, every laboratory, every sleeping quarter, everything. And unlike Earth, Mars has almost no atmospheric insulation. Once the sun goes down, heat escapes into space incredibly fast. If power fails on Mars, you're not just inconvenienced, your entire habitat could become uninhabitable.
Here's where things get really scary. Earth has two massive advantages: a thick atmosphere and a powerful magnetic field. Together, they shield us from dangerous radiation coming from space. Mars has neither. Billions of years ago, Mars lost its global magnetic field. Without that protection, solar radiation and cosmic rays bombard the planet's surface almost non-stop. Living on Mars without shielding would expose colonists to radiation levels many times higher than what radiation workers on Earth are allowed to receive. Over time, that increases the risks of cancer, heart disease, cataracts, cognitive decline, fertility problems, and that's before a major solar storm hits. A powerful solar event could deliver dangerous doses of radiation in just hours. That's why many Mars habitat concepts involve burying living quarters underground or covering them with several meters of Martian soil. In other words, the future city on Mars might look less like a futuristic metropolis and more like humans hiding underground, like sci-fi moles.
If radiation is the invisible enemy, dust is the annoying enemy that never leaves. Martian dust is incredibly fine. It sticks to everything: equipment, solar panels, airlocks, spacesuits, electronics. And unlike ordinary dirt, Mars dust contains chemicals called perchlorates. These compounds can be harmful to human health and interfere with thyroid function. Imagine trying to keep your home clean when every grain of dust is toxic and determined to sneak inside. Now imagine doing that for decades. That's Mars.
Mars does have water. The problem is that most of it is frozen. To survive, future colonists would need to mine ice buried beneath the surface or extract frozen water from the soil. Every drop would be precious. Water for drinking, water for cooking, water for farming, water for hygiene. Almost everything would need to be recycled. In fact, future Mars settlers would likely recycle water even more efficiently than astronauts currently do aboard the International Space Station. Nothing gets wasted when every liter requires energy to obtain. Forget running to the grocery store. There are no grocery stores on Mars. No farms, no restaurants, no pizza delivery. Growing food becomes a matter of survival. The challenge? Mars receives only about 43% of the sunlight Earth gets. That means massive greenhouses or underground farms lit by artificial lights. Both options require huge amounts of power. Every tomato, every potato, every leaf of lettuce would depend on a carefully managed life support ecosystem. One equipment failure could threaten an entire harvest. Suddenly, keeping your houseplant alive doesn't seem so difficult. One of the biggest unknowns isn't radiation. It's gravity. Mars has only 38% of Earth's gravity. You'll weigh much less, jump higher, carry heavier objects. Sounds awesome. But your body evolved under Earth's gravity. We know that astronauts in space lose bone density and muscle mass over time. What we don't know is whether Mars has enough gravity to prevent those problems. Could humans spend decades there safely? Would children born on Mars develop normally? Would they ever be able to return to Earth? Nobody knows. This may be one of the biggest unanswered questions in human space exploration. Now, imagine this. You're living on Mars. Outside is a deadly environment. Earth is tens of millions of miles away. Messages take minutes to arrive. If something breaks, help isn't coming. If supplies are on low, you wait years for the next launch opportunity. If you get homesick, there's no weekend trip home. The closest comparison we have today is scientists living in remote Antarctic research stations. Except Mars is far more isolated. Every disagreement, every personality conflict, every stressful moment gets amplified when you're trapped together on another planet. The psychological challenge might be just as difficult as the engineering challenge. So, does this mean we should never go to Mars? Not at all. Mars exploration could unlock incredible scientific discoveries. It could drive technological breakthroughs. It could inspire an entire generation. But there's a difference between visiting Mars and living there permanently. Building a true self-sustaining civilization on Mars would require solving challenges involving physics, biology, medicine, psychology, energy, agriculture, and economics. Challenges unlike anything humanity has ever faced. Maybe one day we'll build thriving cities beneath the Martian surface. Maybe children will grow up under salmon-colored skies. Maybe Mars really is humanity's next frontier. Or maybe we'll discover that Earth, even with all its problems, is still the most valuable world we'll ever have. What do you think? Would you volunteer for a one-way trip to Mars? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of humanity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us here on Tomorrow Explained. Because the future is coming faster than any of us realize. And sometimes it's 140 million miles away.